These journalists always warn us of a far right, but where is the far left? It's the Newsbusters podcast. I'm Tim Graham, executive editor of Newsbusters. Joining me today, it's sort of 90s day, Jeff Dickens, director of media analysis, who started in 1995, and our PBS analyst, Clay Waters, who started as an intern in 1993. Mississippi's finest, now in Florida. Yes, in fact, Clay, as you describe yourself on your X account, author of the Agatha Christie-style cozy mystery, Death in the Eye. What is a cozy mystery?
Well, it's usually set in a country house. There's not a lot of forensic evidence analyzing DNA and blood stains. It's a nice, quiet, like you may be poisoned in your tea type of mystery, as opposed to being stabbed multiple times. So, Agatha Christie would definitely qualify any of her mysteries.
A cozy poisoning.
It sold a whopping 120 copies.
I'm one of them.
I think Brent Baker has a copy.
Yes.
All right, so we're here in part because Clay has a new study out of the PBS NewsHour. It's sort of a repeat of something we noticed before, and that is there's this complete imbalance in the way that reporters describe the two sides of the ideological debate. So Republicans are routinely described with terms like far right, hard right. Did we study ultra-conservative this time, Clay?
We looked up ultra-conservative and hardcore. We found a total of one, so we decided to just keep it simple, do what we did last time.
Okay.
With the same results, I might add.
Well, what we found was 44 uses of far-right labels and only 4 uses of the far-left labels, so that's a ratio of 11 to 1. Now, what makes that a little different was, I think the last time we did it, it was 27 to 1. So, have they reformed?
Right, yeah, I believe the raw figure was 162 to 6.
Yeah. And there are caveats, right? I mean, because how do they use far-left?
Correct. Yeah, these are good studies. They're very kind of straightforward to show bias, but it's also kind of frustrating because you want to go in there and say, well, okay, it is a 3-to-1 ratio, right wing versus left wing, but that's not the whole story, because even the left wing, when a PBS reporter says far left or hard left, sometimes they're saying, oh, they're denying the label applies in this situation, or they're attributing it to say, oh, Donald Trump called Antifa far left. And we know that has to count. So, yeah, there are a lot of caveats. Without getting too much in the weeds, even the ratio, which was 11 to 1 this time around, that doesn't quite capture the whole stark disparity of the labeling bias by PBS NewsHour.
Yeah, and Clay has provided a whole bunch of quotes to sort of underline how the context for a lot of these. So you counted not just far right, hard right, extreme right, but also just usual right wing and left wing. And so, yes, if David Brooks comes on and says it's Ivy League right wing nihilism, it's not a mild label the way it comes out. So, I mean,
yeah, Brooks was the hero. I believe he was the only one who actually used a form of extreme left. All the other extremes were on the right. And sometimes those labels apply, Nick Fuentes, far right. Okay, fair enough. But they were talking about Jeff Bennett, one of the hosts, was talking about the Pope. And, the Pope's social media, it's in line with the gospel, maybe not in line with right-wing politics, which kind of obnoxious.
Yes, it is. Well, I mean, look, when it comes to religion, they always are, the right wing and the left wing labels don't always apply. And it's a religion, it's not politics. But yes, what they're basically trying to say is sometimes the Pope lines up with us, which upsets the right-wingers. And that's the real problem with the labeling. I mean, Jeff, when we think about this with everything that we do, you've done a few of these labeling studies.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like from the place where they are on the ideological spectrum, they're on the left.
Yeah.
I would argue they're on the far left.
Right.
If you love Zohran Mamdani, you're on the far left.
Far left, right.
So it's easy for them. They probably think your mainstream Republican is on the far right.
I know it's really fascinating when you're watching these the way they'll line it up, and they'll have like David Brooks. Would they still consider him a conservative?
They don't say that, but it's. Yeah, I mean, I think they don't play. You remember for how many years Jennifer Rubin was still a conservative?
That's right. Yeah.
In fact, George Conway was on MSNBC or MSNBC, and he's going to run for Congress as a Democrat. And they said, "Here's conservative lawyer George Conway." No,
that's right. It's like when Colin Powell endorsed Barack Obama; he was still a Republican. It's like I don't know if that you're a Republican anymore if you endorse the Democrat candidate for president.
Pretty much, yes. That's right. I mean, you certainly can't be a conservative anymore.
Yeah.
Like Liz Cheney, you can't be a conservative anymore if you're like vote for Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
With everything you would get with
Exactly.
President Kamala Harris, all you're saying is I don't want Trump. Okay, but Clay, you make the point about Laura Loomer, for example, and I thought that was kind of an interesting thing because obviously she's controversial even on the right. There are people on the right that would say, look at the kooky stuff she's doing or whatever. When you look at the story, they did a whole story on Laura Loomer. I know NPR has done this as well. And what's fascinating about it is a bunch of the stuff they quoted her saying in that story, a bunch of us would probably agree with, like Somalia is an asshole or whatever. You're like, okay. I mean, that's not that wild-eyed a thing. And she said some things about self-hating liberal Jews. That's pretty common right-wing stuff too. But then she brought on one of our favorites, David Gilbert of Wired Magazine, and it's like, okay, here's a guy who likes Antifa and who was brought on to PBS to defend people who got fired for celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And that's where it's like, far left is a good term for people who celebrate the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
What?
It is very revealing what the media considers to be incredibly right-wing offensive. And then a lot of normal people will read that and say, okay, where's the offensive part? Let's get to that part. Some of it just sounds like conventional wisdom. And yeah, Laura Loomer is definitely controversial. She said controversial things. You could, I guess, be devil's advocate and say, why is PBS NewsHour covering Laura Loomer too much, or excessively, or Nick Fuentes? Is this that piles on all these justified labels, but also are these really are these people really deserving of the spotlight?
Well,
so there's that angle as well.
Is Nick Fuentes on the right?
Coverage.
Didn't he campaign against Trump last time?
No, what they're trying to do is they're trying to take the most controversial, to put it lightly, figures on the right and say they're sort of representative of, mainstream conservative or Republican thought.
Or at least of MAGA.
Yes.
Like, this guy is MAGA. This guy's... and that's their way to discredit the conservatives. And it's like, yeah, they're not going to say... We didn't find anybody calling Rashida Tlaib far left.
Yeah.
Ilhan Omar far left. Sandy Cortez. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's not on the far left. Zohran Mamdani's not on the far left. You notice did you find it applied to a person?
I did. Jeff Bennett at some point, this was almost a caveat, but not quite. President Trump was representing far-right populism. Zohran Mamdani was representing far-left populism.
Okay, there's one.
That's a genuine...
I stand corrected. Mm-hmm.
That was it, as I remember.
But of course, here again, you're saying when these labels come in, it's often they're doing an equivalence. Far right over here, far left here.
Yeah, a generic equivalent. They'll say, it's almost like shrugging a pox on both houses. Both the far left and the far right do that. That's not really a specific condemnation of a party or issue. So I attribute that to what we call tandem. Like if they're criticizing both sides in generic terms, that doesn't really count for me as a genuine hostile label.
Yeah, I mean it certainly counts for labels used, but it's funny how precisely how it's used. I wanted to bring in a clip. One example was PBS congressional reporter Lisa Desjardins discussing the speaker vote for Mike Johnson, where she breaks out the term hard right. Let's take a look.
Let's go over those numbers. To become Speaker of the House, Johnson needed 218 votes, and initially he received only 216. 3 Republicans voted against him, voted for someone else. And those members were members of the hard right. All 3 of them, Thomas Massie of Kentucky, Ralph Norman of South Carolina, Keith Self of Oklahoma, prominent fiscal hawks. They care about the debt and deficit.
So calling Thomas Massie the hard right, I mean, okay, Thomas Massie can be controversial. But it's funny how it's like deficit hawks are on the hard right. And once again, it's like they can't seem to find anybody in Congress who's defined as the hard left. Or, for example, so we had this thing.
Hard is their word for right wingers. Hard is definitely the word that Lisa Jardin, who's actually one of the better ones over there, but she does have a weakness for that term when you apply to Republicans in Congress. Hard line, hard right.
You are absolutely right that Lisa Desjardins, at least when you put her on a scale up to Laura Barone Lopez, who's no longer there, she went to MS Now, which totally made sense. That was a lateral move. We always found that LBL was the worst. But it's fascinating. We just saw this week that Congressman Hank Johnson, who's on the hard left, went on on a podcast and suggested America was the great Satan. He's not going to get a story on PBS NewsHour.
No.
So that's sort of the thing. So, I mean,
that's one of the things. This bias by omission, things that they don't cover. That is the hardest. It's a very challenging thing to tackle. You got to keep your eyes open. That's what MRC does really well, I believe.
Okay, I wanted to shift into what Jeff's been working on a lot. It's kind of almost your dominant thing now, which is the worst of the week. And every week, Jeff has to come up with the 3 worst things of the week, and he'll bounce them off Brent Baker and me and say, what do you think? And then we ask ourselves, can Sonny Hostin win every week?
I know, right?
Sonny Hostin's on the list.
But we do ask our supporters and readers and Newsbusters podcast watchers to vote on these categories every week. And we have 3 nominations, and they vote for the winner.
And Sonny Hostin usually wins when she's on the ballot.
If she's on the ballot, she usually wins, yes.
So obviously people would say, well, these are not objective reporters. Well, but they're influential pundits. A lot of these things are. Because people who are trying to be objective reporters don't say outrageous things most of the time. I think we also have a tendency to lean toward more famous people.
Right. Yeah, occasionally we'll have someone that's a little more obscure, but I think generally if the name is not recognizable, maybe they won't get as much votes, even if they say something really obnoxious.
Yes.
But
they'll get 8%.
Right. So, but yeah, we generally keep it to famous people, and I'm sort of spoiling it a little bit. Sometimes we'll even have celebrities. David Letterman is in the hopper this week.
Well, I wanted to run through the 3 things that you're putting out just to sort of enjoy and talk about them. So David Letterman went on Kimmel and sucked up to Kimmel. Kimmel's a hero. He said, people are aware of the fact you are the leader of the resistance, which Stephen Colbert is like, what?
Right, exactly. What am I, chopped liver? I got fired.
He later did say, you and Stephen and Seth Meyers.
Right.
Thank God for you. I'm like, oh, is that
Kimmel,
right?
Adden, and Jon Stewart, and these all the usual suspects of, the real journalists. I think Jon Stewart just got nominated for the Walter Cronkite Award.
Oh, yes, Alex Christie did that. He was like, do you care about the Walter Cronkite Awards? And I'm like, anybody who still reveres Walter Cronkite, you know that they're going to be on the left. When you hand out Cronkite Awards, it's going to be who is the most anti-Trump. Yeah.
So David Letterman goes on Kimmel's show and sucks up to him and just like...
Yeah, he said it. I'm going to suck up to you.
Right.
Because, I'll be glorified in retrospect.
That's right.
And then he said, if the leader of the free world is a fool, the leader of the free world then should expect and examine every bit of ridicule he receives.
Right.
This is what's fascinating, is that these guys are paid fools. They're jesters. They're comedians, and yet They're all running around going, "We are far smarter than you."
Yeah, but this is what's so absurd is like during the Obama years, they weren't exactly the court jesters.
No.
Making fun of the president. And I'm sure Dave Leonard's probably jealous of Kimmel and Colbert. Like he probably wishes like a George W. Bush, call for his fire or something like that.
Yeah, it reminds me. I'm going to bring Jimmy Fallon into this for a second. Now, of course, Jimmy Fallon was infamous for tousling Trump's hair to see if it was real, and that was seen as a suck-up thing. But I remember, I don't know if it was Christmas. I want to say it was Christmas of 2021. He did an interview with Biden. And it was very Jimmy Fallon, is they just have to understand Jimmy Fallon's nice to every guest he has. Yeah. Jimmy Fallon doesn't throw hardballs.
Yes, Jimmy Fallon was not named in by Kimmel or Letterman.
Not a hero.
Yeah, he's not a hero.
He's not a resistance.
He's not tough enough. Yeah, not a resistance. Yeah, resistance.
All right, and then there's Sonny Hostin on The View talking about the blatant xenophobia and racism that comes from the highest office of the United States and the misogyny. And so now he's just openly embracing these words like garbage, filth, and vermin. Where have we heard that language, Whoopi? We've heard it in fascist places where white supremacy has taken over in the country.
Yeah, this is, again, Sonny just going back to her usual, the View cast, basically.
Yeah.
Trump's a racist. Trump is homophobe. Trump and MAGA, they're all want to get rid of all the quote-unquote brown people. And that's what she usually falls upon. But this is what the stuff that makes her like a weekly winner.
Yes.
But yeah, this is what she does.
Well, and they all goad each other, and they're unanimous all the time. So, this show doesn't have anybody anymore who's like, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, Meghan McCain, when she was on there, she actually did a decent job of representing the conservative side, the Republican side. Now you have Alyssa, who's just pathetic.
Yes. I mean, and Meghan McCain was not a Trump fan, and she was not shy about criticizing Trump. But she was also the sort of person who it's like, does Bernie Sanders really want to come on the show today?
Right. No, and I think Meghan McCain was radicalized by being on that set.
Yep.
with Whoopi and Joy and yeah.
Yeah, because I remember when Meghan McCain came in, we were sort of like, oh, this is going to be like Nicole Wallace all over again. Mm-hmm. And she was a surprise. Yeah. But let me say this.
She was a New York Times hero. I remember a lot of glowing profiles of her in the New York Times as a Republican with heart or with a brain or with charm. Said, oh, yeah, McCain's not really conservative. But yeah, I think you're right, Jeff. She was radicalized.
Yep. And there has been, Clay, I don't know if you wrote this one up or I did, the New York Times puff piece about Alyssa Farah Griffin.
That was you, probably.
This is when you know you've arrived, when the New York Times loves you. But I will say this. I don't like Donald Trump using terms like garbage. These people are garbage, or these people are vermin. I don't like that. My friend Catherine Jean Lopez did a piece where it was like, pro-lifers don't use words like garbage to describe human people.
This is Donnie from Queens.
Yeah.
This is when he sounds like Donnie from Queens on a radio show calling in. That's just like, no, I don't like it either, but it's Trump being Trump. And the thing is I think he does it intentionally to keep people like off their feet, like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Well, and he doesn't mind, it's not like if somebody says, excuse me, Mr. President, that sounds a little like the fascists in Germany, and it'd be like, whatever, because he does sort of like keeping them off kilter all the time. But again, part of it too is, yes, the Somalis in Minnesota ripped off the government for $1 billion. And so it's like, you can't insult them. We can't.
Yeah.
And then there's Jennifer Welch.
Wow.
She's the new hot babe. I mean, hot babe in terms of popularity.
I'm not the first person to say it, but the left has been struggling to find their version of Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan used to be one of them. And Rogan is another guy that's been radicalized by their insanity and then moved to the center and the right. But yeah, Jennifer Welch was a Bravo show reality. She was an interior designer,
and they did some sort of a season or two on Bravo of her and her friend Angie Pump Sullivan, and they have this podcast now, which is called I've Had It. And The New York Times just did a big gushy piece about her and Sullivan and said they once railed against the kinds of people who clap when the airplane lands. Now they have had it with fascists and the self-hating dweebs they say power the Make America Great movement, Make America Great Again movement. So, yes, now they're calling out the fascists. They're our heroes.
The Jennifer Welch, she is, if you're familiar with the movie Mean Girls by Tina Fey, she is like the uber mean girl of like feminism and the left. And we'll get to it. But what she said about Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, was just disgusting. We had a very brief portion of it, but the whole podcast was disgusting.
All right, we do have a clip.
And she is a grifter. And just look at the costume changes. Look at the costume changes. Look at the affect and how she does that. It's wild. This woman should be kicked to the curb. She is an absolute grifter, just like Donald Trump and just like her unrepentant, racist, homophobic husband was.
Well, we expect people on the left to say, I saw Amanda Seyfried, the actress, this week saying, we're still going to say Charlie Kirk was a racist and a homophobe and you can't stop me. But it's different when this woman, her husband was brutally murdered, and then she's just saying this woman's a grifter. I mean, it is kind of amazing, and it's very much a Mean Girl moment.
Yes. And yeah, Welch is mocking the way Erica Kirk dresses now, and then like calling it she's doing costume changes and it's just, I mean, so this is who you want to put forward as your Rogan?
Mm-hmm. And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
And these are the same people, Clay, who will turn around and say, we need more civility and common ground in our politics. They're not serious.
I guess we're all old enough to remember when Air America was going to save.
That's right. Air America was the response to Rush Limbaugh, and that tank. How long did that thing stay on there?
They're still looking for their hero or heroine.
Yeah.
Some of them lasted longer than others. Janine Garofalo's show, not so much.
That's right.
Al Franken's radio show, which was, he was trying really hard to be a Democratic senator when he was doing that show. But I mean, it was still, Al Franken was obviously, this was the hard thing is they never respected what Limbaugh did.
Right.
They thought, well, any schmo can do what Limbaugh does. And they found out, no. But part of the problem there is I've said before, they couldn't find a space in commercial radio for the left because they had NPR.
Yeah.
So I wanted to turn now to something that amused me, and maybe it wasn't as amusing. The tweet was more amusing maybe than the story, and that is Joy Reid says Jingle Bells is racist. Did you see that one, Clay?
I saw the headline.
Well,
apparently she's done that before.
Jeff said
her seasonal.
Well, I'm sure that at some point Joy Reid will say this on camera because she has a podcast, and maybe she already has as of this recording. But what Joy Reid did, I guess, was yesterday. Is she on her Instagram feed put up this gentleman who went to the statue that was devoted to the writer of the song Jingle Bells and said that, oh, here's all this history that they're, ignoring, that apparently he went on to fight for the Confederacy and then maybe he used blackface. And so I think, I don't know. This is, again, just Joy Reid saying all your beloved Americana things are racist.
Yeah, I mean, so apparently, Clay, this was a Boston University professor. It came out in 2017, about this time 2017, doing this whole big paper on James Pierpont or whatever who wrote the song. Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, when we all sing Jingle Bells, nobody's thinking, Jingle Bells, we are a racist. I mean, it's not what it is.
Right.
I was joking. It was Jingle Bells, Joy Reid smells, Sharpton laid an egg. But, I mean, that's not the origins of the song. But I said to Dickens this morning, hey, why doesn't she object to white Christmas? Wouldn't that make more sense?
Right, yeah.
May all your Christmases be white, merry and bright.
Yeah.
And now they're complaining about the color of the year, Pantone's color of the year
yes.
announcement, because it's some kind of off-white shade. Yes, there's no pleasing these people.
Briefly, I wanted to bring up Rosie O'Donnell. Speaking of puff pieces, the Washington Post Sunday section had such an enormous 4-page, 10-color photograph profile of Rosie O'Donnell. The reporter flew to Ireland to tell us that Rosie's problem is she just cares too much about people.
Yeah, so Rosie O'Donnell's also been one of a frequent member of the Worst of the Week. This is the first year we've done it, and then it'll be fun to go and look, see how many, made Worst of the Week. But Rosie famously went to Ireland. She's now an Irish citizen now officially. I think she just moved out there.
She's not an illegal immigrant.
To escape Trump.
Yeah.
And his,
Well, so you say, well, at least she actually did it. You know, the Streisand's of the world are
That's
always
right.
like, I'm moving. And then they never did.
That's right. There's some credit for putting money where her mouth is. It's finally moved.
All right. Now, I've got a surprise for my 90s crew today. I have created a list of classic 90s worst of notable quotables. We're going to say, guess who said it? Some of these should be easy. From 1995, Jeff's first year. This reporter said, I think he ought to be worried about what's going on in the good Lord's mind, because if there's retributive justice, he'll get AIDS from a transfusion, or one of his grandchildren will get it. Jesse Helms. You remember?
Clay buzzed in first.
Nina Totenberg. Yeah,
yes.
I remember that one.
Nina Totenberg, NPR's civil correspondent. This is one of my favorites. From 1995, still ahead, the latest round of bloodshed and violence at abortion clinics. The anti-abortion movement has been creeping to the edge of bloody fanaticism for a decade.
Is that Bryant Gumbel?
Close.
Clay?
Come on, Clay.
I don't know. I know the quote. I don't know the person. It's a male. That's all I know.
It's not a male. Jane Pauley on Dateline NBC.
Oh, all right. Well, I had the NBC broadcast, right?
I would not have gotten that.
She said this on a news show. This isn't even her just popping off. All right. We're 1996, Republican convention. Do you think this is a party that's dominated by men, and this convention is dominated by men as well? Do you think before tonight they thought very much about what happens in America with rape?
Oh, my gosh.
They were questioning a rape victim who spoke at the convention.
Andrea Mitchell?
Katie Couric?
Tom Brokaw. All right, one last one from 97. I said to somebody that if O.J. killed his first wife, Marguerite, who was black, and her friend, then do I think George Will and William F. Buckley would have written about it? No way, not on God's green earth. They wouldn't have even noticed.
Oh, jeez. I'm stumped on that one.
You've already said the
I have
name.
an obvious guess.
Oh, Gumbel.
It's Bryant Gumbel.
Oh, okay.
Bryant Gumbel. And in fact...
All right.
Those are some deep... That last was a deep pull. Yeah.
Well, they were all in our worst issue.
Yeah.
Our worst of the year issue. Gumbel actually did this also in 96, where he said to Johnny Cochran in an interview, if it was his black wife, America wouldn't care. It wouldn't have as much media coverage. And this one... We'll conclude with this Gumbel classic from 95. 2 weeks after his acquittal, we'll see how O.J. Simpson is still being treated as if he were guilty.
That's a classic.
Norm Macdonald rolls his eyes.
That's right.
Anyway, yes, we've been at this a very long time. We're inching up in 2027 on 40 years. And some of us have been here, I'm at 36. But I thank you, gentlemen. Of course, yes, Jeff Dickens at GC Dickens on X. Clay's at Clay Waters 44?
Clay Waters 44 is the Twitter account.
Yes. Okay. We want to get that right in case
formerly Twitter, now X. Yeah.
Yes. We still like calling it Twitter. Thank you, gentlemen. And if you want all of this ancient history of media bias and the people who found it in ancient times, you got to come to Newsbusters once, twice, 24 times a day. Thanks for watching and listening.